let's just sing and just talk, and let's just spend some time together. And so before we do that, I just want to ask you, as we come out of Thanksgiving, if our children would like to go, I believe with Ingrid and with Denise, now's that time to do that. But as we come out of Thanksgiving and we go into this Christmas season, I just want to ask you guys a question. How are we doing? Are we doing good? Good things happening. We got something positive that we can share that made it good to be I cannot get out of my head Mr. Micah Trapp down here when we had our last Wednesday night together, and I said, what do you have to be thankful for? And he just thought and thought and thought, and he goes, life. He goes, what do I not have to be thankful for? Life is good. And there was something about the smile that was on his face when he said it, just everything else. But is there some for you guys? Why are we good? Have we shared that with anybody? Why are we good?
I can share. Gracie had her fundraiser yesterday for her trip to Holy Land, and she got a fourth of the way funded just yesterday. So it's a good day. So we're thankful for that, and it's really good. It was a good day.
Yeah, I heard there was a lot at the bazaar. We never made it down there, but heard there was a lot down there at the bazaar. And if you didn't hear that, she said Gracie, who is fundraising for her trip to the Holy Land, got a fourth of the way there in one day. And I'm sure you can imagine that means she did well, because it's not a cheap trip to get to the Holy Land, and that's awesome. And there were people involved to help supply what she needed to do that, and I think that's great too. I got to actually try one of the cinnamon rolls that were a part of that, so I know they were good. But why else? Why are we good right now? We haven't taken time just to stop. Why are we good? We have our, were you pointing to you and Gail? Or, yeah, you guys, we all do, but we have our health. Yeah. What's that? A lot of people in your lives that love you. That's doom. Wait, I shouldn't say that. My in-law's sitting right there. You know, you had a good bunch of laughs. I had a nice, relaxing day. It was very comfortable, on Thanksgiving with my in-laws, I had a very nice, not yesterday, Thursday, had a very nice, relaxing day, which was just honestly, what we needed. You just really didn't, it was great. Anybody else? That's right, best hot chocolate I had all night, wasn't it? I say that with the kids, I'm like, it's the best hot chocolate we've had all day, huh? And they're like, eh. I'm like, have you had any yet? No. Well, what is that about then? They don't get what I'm getting at. We have each other. That includes you, Larry. She's counting you in there. We got Scripture. We got the Bible. We're free. Is that what you said? We're free. Anything else as we go into, I know that there are people, we talked about it last week, and I know that it's not feeling all good for everybody right now. Today, we've spent 2 weeks remembering that, and we don't forget that. We keep that in mind, but I think it was actually my brother who, I had no idea, honestly, until he shared something with us, that he's actually spent the last 2 weeks going into Advent speaking on the same type of thing that we did. I didn't even know that. We didn't plan it. We hadn't talked until he asked to share what you guys heard some of last week. And I heard him say that we cannot forget that there are people that this is not going so well. It's hard for them to come up with this. We cannot forget that, but that means we need to use what is going well to go and encourage and to love and to remember that so that we can walk with them and encourage them through this time. So we don't forget it, but we sometimes need to share it. You know, it's easy to do over a dinner table, which maybe we should just have this whole service over a dinner table today and to share those things, but we need to be intentional about doing that and then using these things that have been shared to encourage others. Again, as you said, or as I just said, there are people struggling. Let's not forget that. In fact, I shared them last week after last week's message, these concept papers that we wrote that we had to write for why we started the well. They highlight the reality of what people are struggling with. If you didn't get one last week, we've got more. Take it and read it because it helps share why we're doing what we're doing. It, as I said before, and especially after this weekend, it is not my lifelong dream to be a barista. In fact, I've learned if you want to learn how to kill a coffee addiction, start a coffee shop, okay? Because it was not fun to make the coffee this morning at home. You get tired of it after a while. That's not why we did it. I know there's rumors in town, actually, that I quit here to start a coffee shop. That's not what it's about. It's people that are struggling, and we needed to do something to help and to be a part of that and house it in a place like that. That being said, I can tell you that last night there was something about when we were tired and we were done, there was something really cool. If you didn't come at the right time last night, you didn't get to see that that place was very, very full and packed. It happened in the morning, and it happened again last night. But it was awesome because a year ago, I remember standing there watching the Christmas tree lighting, and Leanne said, next year we're going to have that going. We hadn't quite purchased the building yet, but said that's going to be going. And something hit me that in a year, honestly, and if you knew the whole story behind everything that's happened over the year, God has done a lot to have that place going, and you guys are a huge reason why, and others beyond here. Like I sat there and saw the people that were in there, and then thought about how many people that have given, either financially or physically with their labor, or just coming in now and in their encouragement and their prayers. And it was just one of those moments that you just went, man, who would have really thought a year ago that that was going to be taking place? And I know the night for us last night, it didn't go perfect. We felt bad. We heard that we kind of distracted the actual Christmas tree lighting with the generator going on outside with the lady out there, things like that. So we knew that there was some things that didn't go perfect. But to still see the town the way it was, if you just give you an idea how busy it was, and there were people there last night. Sarah got to meet them all. We have a natural-born greeter in our midst. If someone said that Sarah was too mean for people to come in, I'm like, no, she's too sweet to tell them to go, to the other place. But yesterday in our shop, it was just under 400 drinks that got served. And then another 100 that Charlene gave away with cider. And then the lady outside had over almost 120. That's how many people were gathered around there. That's because of everybody here. And I went home tired but extremely thankful through it all because you're why. The town has helped develop something, the area, the people that care, and people beyond here. And God knows there's a need, and He wants to continue to work through things that we can put together and walk with Him in that. So it's out there, and we don't forget that. We're going to love on people, and we're going to continue to share that so that we can. But in moments like last night and then, we do want to tell you, thank you. Thanks for being a part of that and seeing that happen, and just keep praying and just keep staying aware and just keep loving on people as we continue to move forward and hopefully help in the process with some of this stuff as we pay attention to it. That's kind of also a lead-in to what we're going to kind of focus on. We're not just focusing on the same thing we've been doing all these last 2 weeks, but as we go through this time of Advent, because if you didn't know, we are in the Advent season right now. And it feels, again, kind of weird, partly because the weather's just too nice. I don't know, like I was standing out there last night in a T-shirt watching them get ready to light a tree. Just felt a little weird. I did hear Craig's let us know a couple times, Hayes got rain. We probably would have really started singing loud if we would have got some of that here happening. But just to be out there, it was great to have it, but there's something about the weather's almost too warm that it's hard to believe that we're in Advent right now. Other than, again, because of folks that are very gifted, you got those like Jeannie Miller and them that make the sanctuary look like this in the front entrance when you walk in. That reminds us of where we are, but beyond that, it's hard to remember. But we are at the beginning of the Advent season. And as followers of Jesus, Advent season is a time of remembering and of waiting and just reflecting, with the goal being that our hearts and that our homes are just well prepared to again reflect and remember the amazing gift that was given to us a little over 2,000 years ago. One of the things that happens that makes it hard when you go through a season year after year after year is it becomes so routine and so mundane that we tend to forget that these songs that we just sang are about an amazing, amazing gift that was given to us. That really is the gift is the only reason that we really have any chance for hope. In fact, it's the gift that was wrapped up in very, very familiar words when Jesus says, when Scripture says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son." That is the gift that we celebrate. I don't know what you're thinking of getting for your children. I don't know what your children want. And I know that if somebody were to give them a whatever, to kind of tie it in, they wouldn't quite get it. But there is no greater gift than the one that was given to us just over 2,000 years ago in the one and only Son of God, whose name is Jesus. That's what we're, through Advent, take time to just take a breath and wait and reflect and remember that moment so that hopefully we can, if need be, bring our minds back to recenter and remember again the true meaning and the purpose and the eventual results that came from that moment. Because the one thing would be is if we go through this whole season and we don't take time at some point, or even hopefully through the season, remember the gift that we've been given, we're going to miss it. So one of the ways it's helpful to do this is what you do every year. We grab our Bibles that have been preserved for us for a long time, and we read again that story. And I love to read Luke's version. Luke was a doctor. He was more meticulous. He was more detailed, and he just gives you something that helps put you in that place. So this morning, if you would open to Luke chapter 2, we're going to do that together, and we're just going to read through this. We're going to set up the rest of the Advent season, but also go ahead and open to Matthew chapter 24, because I'm going to have us go there in a little bit as well. But if you go to Luke chapter 2, we're going to read this moment together. It says, without giving all the backstory, and again, maybe the best thing I can encourage you all to do through this season is continually go back and read this. If nothing else, just start your day reading through this. If you get bored reading the same thing over, there's this. If you have a cell phone that's a smartphone, it's a safe app, it's a good app, it's an app that was made with love, it's a free app, it's called the Bible app. And I know some like to say, no, I only read this thing here because it's the real deal. No, this isn't actually the real deal either. This was translated and prepared for us to read. There is the real words in that app. They're digital, but the cool part is if you get tired of reading the same thing, you can go, you know what? Let me read a different translation, and you can read it in something else. Let me read a different translation. You can read it in something else, and just keep doing that to just continue to go through and refresh our minds and our memories and start our day with what we are celebrating through this time. Because it says in Luke chapter 2 that in those days, the days when this gift was given, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. Now, this is happening after Mary became pregnant, and she was coming to a place where it was near to have her child. It says in verse 3, everyone went to their own town to register, because that's what you were called to do. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds during the time, who were living out in their fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people." Don't miss that line. That's the gift. Good news that will actually bring you great joy for all the people. Because today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah. He is the Lord. This is going to be a sign to you. You're going to find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger. Well, then suddenly, after that happened, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel. They were praising God, and they were saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." And then when the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Why don't we go to Bethlehem? Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about." So they hurried off, and they found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. And there was something about that baby, because when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. And then here's this line that we've been focusing on all year. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Because something happened. There was a moment in history where a gift was given for you and for me. And without this moment, we wouldn't even have an Advent. Without this moment, we wouldn't have anything to remember. Without this moment, we wouldn't have something to celebrate. In fact, without this moment, in truth, we wouldn't have much hope. Without this moment. Without this moment, we wouldn't have a reason to be aware. We wouldn't have a reason to make ready. We wouldn't have a reason to look forward as this little baby who grew up to be a man God encouraged us to do on the regular, so that we could not only live our lives to the full that we have on this timeline that we've been given, but also so that we can experience the life that goes beyond this time that we've been given breath. We wouldn't even have that opportunity if not for this moment in history. See, there was a time in this ministry of this little baby who grew up to be Jesus that we read about, where he actually let people know he was going to end up leaving this planet for a while, but that he was going to be coming back again. And his desire for us all the time, once this all happened, was that we would constantly be aware, that we would be made ready to see what he was doing, that we would be looking forward to things that he was going to be doing, that God was going to be doing, the lives that he was going to be changing, the ways that we could be involved in his life as we get involved in the lives of others. But he let us people know that I'm going to be going for a little while. And we know that that happened after he was crucified and then rose again and then ascended into heaven. But he also said, but I'm going to leave behind a helper that's going to walk with you, that's going to guide you, that's going to empower you, that's going to live within you and help you walk out these things that I'm doing. I'm not leaving you as orphans. And I'm not even leaving you completely. I'm just going away for a little while. And then I'll be back. He let people know that. In fact, there was one time, that's why I wanted you to open to Matthew 24, if you haven't already gotten there. If you go to Matthew chapter 24, here's what he says. These are one of those moments, and those little moments that he would do where he shares this in Matthew chapter 24, starting in verse 36. He says, I'm going to be coming back. But one thing I want you to know in verse 36, about that day or hour of when this is going to happen, no one knows. Not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son. The only one who knows when that day is going to be is the Father. This is why it is really hard when someone goes out there and makes the prediction that this is the end of the world to ever happen, because Jesus said, actually, nobody knows. Not even I do. I don't even know when that's going to be. but it's going to happen. And he says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day Noah entered the ark. And they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That is how it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding with a handmill. One will be taken and the other left. So here's his point in all this that he's calling us to. And this is what we do in Advent. He says, therefore, keep watch. Make ready. Stay prepared. Stay alert. Stay with it. Keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this. If the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have let his house be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. This text comes from something that's called the little apocalypse, as it's a moment where Jesus is talking about the beginning of the end. But the focus here today and through this Advent is on his desire and on his focus and on his thoughts and words about preparation. That we be people who are, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we are making ready so we don't miss the wonder and the revelation and the miracle of what is to come. Jesus' desire is that we're just always ready, always paying attention, which is what Advent is all about. We're encouraging us all to apply this desire of Jesus in our time of Advent this year as we take this time with intention to set ourselves up to remember a moment that has already come, but then which in turn led to opportunities to be aware and live in moments where a holy, loving God is working to bring joy and hope and peace and love to our lives and the lives of people among us. Advent is a time where we can take the same thing Jesus desires here and just be aware and make ready and remember the gift that was given and the gift that's coming back again, and be alert as we love on those around us, including the people who drive us crazy, including the people who did us wrong, including the people who are in the grocery store line taking forever in the line, including the people that we're going to experience soon at ball games that are not happy about how the game went or about players or about refs or about teams, including you fill in the blank. He is wanting to bring love and joy and hope and peace to everybody's life, but Advent is about us setting ourselves up to be aware, to make ready, and to remember and be prepared so that we can see where he is at work, where we can be reminded of and walking with him in his mission that we've looked at the last 2 weeks, where he says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. Advent and all this is setting ourselves up to experience this. And the other cool part that comes with it is that not only do we get to maybe make a difference in somebody else's life, we get to experience a powerful moment in our life. There's a scene that doesn't get overlooked because it's a big part of the scene, but also kind of gets overlooked. But it talks about the shepherds who were out in the field, and they were keeping watch, it says, over their flock at night. Now, we know that literally meant they were keeping watch over their flock at night, but in order for them to keep watch over their flock at night meant they had to keep watch. They had to always be alert. They had to always be ready. They had to pay attention to everything, because either a thief or an animal or anything else could come and could take part of that flock that they were keeping watch over. So that it says they were keeping watch over their flock at night. And in that moment of keeping watch, and they're ability to be prepared and to make ready and to be alert, they got to experience something pretty amazing. Now, we would guess that they wouldn't miss it. We would think that, just the way our brains work and the way our minds work, that there's no way they're going to miss what's going to happen. But I still go back. I thought Craig asked a great question last week in Sunday school when he said, if something powerful like the return of Jesus were to come, would we miss it because we're so unaware of what's going on and we're so caught up in everything? They could have missed it. They could have wrote it off as something else. It says they were afraid. They could have ran thinking it was something else, but they were keeping watch enough and they were alert enough that they got to experience something pretty amazing. A host of angels reminding them of how involved they are, proclaiming the birth of Jesus, becoming the greatest choir that was ever had been there since that time, that had ever been a part of this earth. They got to experience all that. They got to experience angels that were among them. The truth is, we actually have that same opportunity as we make ready and we stay alert. Because not only as we do all this through Advent do we get to help somebody else, there is a gift for us too. We may find that we're entertaining angels as well. That we may have someone involved in our life, that there may be an angel even involved in our life, that we didn't even know it. The author of Hebrews writes this pretty clear when he encourages people to keep loving on one another as brothers and sisters, and not to forget to show hospitality or love and care to strangers, because he says by doing so, some have actually shown hospitality, or some translations said have entertained angels without even knowing it. See, this whole thing isn't just for somebody else that we're doing this. There's a gift in this for us as we're alert and we're ready and we're prepared and we're open and we're paying attention. We might experience something pretty amazing from God ourselves. Even possibly the opportunity to show a hospitality to an angel that's among us. And if you think they don't exist, read Scripture. That song, I believe there are angels among us. I don't remember how old it is now. It was good back in the day. Those that are in the country remember what it was. I just like to sing it because it was a good country song when I was in Harvest. But it's actually true. There are angels among us, and as we are alert and making ready and prepared, one of the gifts is we may get to experience that as we're also loving on others. So the challenge this year as we go through Advent is not just to go to church every Sunday and experience having Christmas time together, though, yes, I'd love to have you here every Sunday, more and more. Love being with you. But the challenge through Advent this year is take Advent for what it's worth and actually make ready. Stay alert. Stay prepared. Be aware of what's going on around us in the midst of all the activities, of all the gift giving and getting and wrapping, of all the stuff going on, of all we're about ready to host our purple and gold tournament for basketball. If you've been a part of that, that's busy. They said there's a wrestling one right before that. That's busy. Of all the activities, like it's going to feel like a sprint for the next 3 weeks to get to the end of this part of the school year, to get to the holidays. For the kids, it's going to feel like a marathon. For the adults, it's going to feel like it's going too fast. It's going to be busy. And maybe it's ironic from the guy that just told you how many people have been in there the last couple days to be the ones that say, we got to find a way to stop. Slow down. Stay alert. Be aware. And be ready to help be that hands and feet of Jesus for the people around us, and also maybe experience the opportunity to be hospitable to the angels among us. We have that opportunity through Advent, all because of this moment in history that took place a little over 2,000 years ago. So I encourage you and I challenge you to take that on through this Advent. And I do believe that when we get to Christmas Eve service and maybe Christmas morning, there's going to be a little something different in the way that we celebrate Christmas this year. There's going to be a few more stories that we have to share. There's going to be a few more burdens that we're going to carry for others because we're going to care. and we're going to see. But that's what it's all about. So as we close, here's 4 things you can just write down real quick practically that I want you guys to maybe consider trying to help pay attention and be intentional about. The first is this: keep Jesus as your main priority. It's ironic to have to say this, but keep our Jesus time a priority. It is just so easy to get sucked into everything, and the ironic thing is the one that we're celebrating is the one that gets left behind. I don't remember where I've heard it or when it was, but they said that the main thing the devil wants to do is not necessarily tempt us with bad things, it's just to keep us busy. So we stay away from the one. I can tell you, there was a moment yesterday in the morning, my attitude was not getting good. It wasn't good. I was wearing a jolly hat and I had a nice shirt on, but I was not jolly inside. And the crowd kept coming, and I was getting frustrated. Things weren't working right. I had to just stop, because we can do this anytime. We had to start the day with Jesus, but also had to stop and say, God, help my attitude. Jesus, work through me, which is a dumb prayer in that moment, because that just means he's going to put you in more places for patience, because they just kept coming after that. They wouldn't stop. But then Vanessa, standing beside me at one point, looked up and she goes, I'm not even going to look up anymore, because she was looking at the lines and the sticky notes. She's like, just stop coming. And I said, just start praying. She's like, shut up. And we're just going back and forth doing this just to try and get through it. But we have to stop. We have to keep Jesus as the top priority, or we will get sucked in. And December 25th is going to come, and we're going to go, oh, crud. Jesus, I forgot you through all of this. Opportunities are going to be there. COVID stuff is past. We're busy again. And it's going to be in front of us. Keep Jesus as the top priority. Number 2, sounds simple, but I think it's important. Stay in a good rhythm, physically and mentally. The other thing I said, it's going to feel like a sprint for the next few weeks. So many things are going to be in front of us that another thing we're going to forget to do is sleep and eat well. But it's, Cindy's going, no, not me, I'm good. And some of us might be like, no, I'm good too. But it is easy to give that stuff up, to be like, no, I'll get back to it, we'll get back to it, we'll get there. And our bodies, we are not invincible. We are not the superhumans. We are not the Jesus. And he even needed sleep and eat. That guy that we looked at last week, who found himself in a place after doing some amazing things with God, staring down so many prophets of Baal and going through all of that, when he got to a place where he lost perspective and he kind of, in a sense, lost his mind and got down and depressed and anxious, did you recognize what happened where God led him? Was places to rest. And then it intentionally says in Scripture, and told him to eat. And to stay in that rhythm, because we got to stay in rhythm physically and mentally. Again, that goes back to helping to keep Jesus as a top priority, but it's important as we go through this. Don't give all that up in the name of whatever. We need rest. We need food. And McDonald's is not the answer. Don't just start gorging on that. I love these guys, but don't eat every meal at Dairy Queen. Sorry, guys. Something healthy, something good. Spend some time at home. Still go there. It's still good to get it, but just something good. But stay in rhythm, physically, mentally. This other one is maybe for some and not for others, but actually, if we're going to be alert and we're going to pay attention to what's going on, actually get out of the house during this time. This is a time I'd encourage you, get out of the house. I know for those that are introverts and like the comforts of home, that's hard to do, but this is a great time to get out among people. Because while it's true that we don't always tend to know that people are struggling, this is also a time where people tend to let you know that they're struggling and that things are tough. There's something about the season, so get out of the house and be around people. Be there with them. Again, our culture sets it up so easily for us. We've got huge TVs. Somebody told me the other day they were going to Walmart to buy an 80-inch TV We've got garages that we can drive into and shut the door without having to say anything to our neighbors and get into our house. We've got heat, and if need be right now, some air conditioning still. We have all that stuff to stay comfortable in our own little place when we're tired. And then we don't know what's going on around us. We still need to get out of the house if we're going to be aware and we're going to make ready and we're going to be prepared to see what God is doing. And then as we're out of the house, the last thing is keep our eyes open and our ears listening. Be intentional not to just share everything going on, but truly look and listen to what's being said, to what's going on. Don't let, again, the busyness of the season get our schedule so hurried and our to-do list so long that we can't stop and listen. Because, again, it is so easy to get sucked in to that. I started by sharing with you the whole reason that place over there exists is for people to connect and to listen. My worst moment this week was when I didn't get to my to-do list because people kept coming in and talking, and I was getting frustrated and had to stop and remind myself, this is the whole point. Because I had all of this going on and forgot, wait a minute, this is why I'm supposed to be here, or others. But it sucks you in. It stresses us out. And before we know it, we're hurrying and hoping they'll quit talking so we can move to the next thing when we need to just stop and go, wait a minute. God has put me here and put them there. Look, listen, hear. And if we'll do that, if we'll keep Jesus as the top priority, we'll stay in rhythm physically and mentally. We'll get out of the house and among people, and we'll have ears to hear and eyes to see. I think we'll be making ready, and we'll be preparing, and we'll be actually going through Advent, experiencing what he desired. And the people around us will experience something different from us, and we just might actually get to experience something through them. Because that just might be an angel that we're entertaining that we needed in our lives. That's my hope and prayer for Joaquini Church of God for 2022 Advent as we go through this time. The worship team's actually going to come up now and lead us in one final song as we close. It's a pretty song, and I love singing Christmas songs. But I don't want this to be it. I want our lives to experience something all week long. I want us to experience the reason he came, the gift that was actually given to us, that we get to celebrate through this time. I want us to come together and worship, but I want us to come together and worship in celebration of what God's doing in us and through us through this Advent. So as we close, again, they're going to sing of that gift together. Let's just stand with them and let's hear this, and let this be part of our prayer as we go today, to experience the reminder of Noel that came